Yes, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm here in my pajamas. Christians came to the United States before it was called that to escape persecution, to live their lives according to their conscience. Now, persecution has followed us here, and there's nowhere else to go. We had the freest country in the world to live out our faith, and that is being taken away from us. And Christians have to decide what they're going to do about it. If the founding fathers were alive today, there already would have been a second American Revolution. If the Christians today were alive back then, there never would have been a first one. Christians today are divided. Many of them see persecution as something that is inevitable, and even something to embrace. Then they would admit, or should admit, that the first American Revolution was a mistake, and the United States should never have come into existence. After all, people took up arms and fought a war in order to have it. What makes it also confusing is that the Bible was written at a time when the world was ruled by kings. There was no such thing as freedom, at least as we have come to know it in the United States. Christians read Romans 13 and 1 Peter and see their place in American society as one of passively accepting whatever the government decides is right. What they are forgetting is that we don't have kings anymore, or rulers, or Caesars. We have representatives. It's like somebody came into your house and told you how to run your house and to give up half your money. Would you just let them do whatever they wanted, or at what point would you stand up and defend yourself, your property, your family? It's the same thing with our country, only on a bigger scale. Government was an extension of the way you ran your house. America respected your freedoms, but it came at a price. But what happened is that change came gradually, like the frog in the pot who didn't notice that the fire was on until the water started boiling, but then it was too late to jump out. America is unique, or was unique, but we forgot what made it unique. We forgot what made us what we were. So when people started changing things, we didn't know we were giving up the things that made us what we were. So what changed? I could give you a list, but the list isn't even that important. Christians in the United States had the greatest blessing that God could give a human being in terms of an earthly blessing, freedom. But they fought a war to get it. But not just any war. They fought a war against their very own government. This was not a defensive war to protect their loved ones from an attacking enemy. This was a war of resistance against a government that was stifling their freedom. Christians today seem unwilling to fight such a war, and as a consequence, they will lose their freedoms, and in a few generations, the United States will cease to exist. The name might stay the same, but the church will be irrelevant, and the country will be very unlike the one that was created. Don't look for the persecution to bring revival. What you are calling humility is fear, what you are calling submission is timidity, and what you are calling love is accommodation, born out of fear. The Bible had prophets, but they stirred up things, and we don't want strife. We want everything to go smoothly. We call it unity, but the price for that unity is weakness. We've reduced the Christian life to a ticket to heaven when we die, and Bible studies and small groups to keep us busy until we get there. We have withdrawn from the world around us because we are so focused on our own spiritual lives, like the monks of old, but without the sackcloth, funny haircuts, and the walls that clearly define where their sanctuary ends and the world begins. Our country is dying, and only Christians can save it. But they're just not sure if they should. They don't know how. They're not sure if it's God's will. What will people think if they get excited or angry, or if they actually say no to people, say no to the government? They might lose their tax exemption. As awful as it may be, that just shows how disengaged Christians are in the world. The government is just people like you and me. When the government and the courts and the schools become hostile to Christians, that only means there weren't enough Christians in government, courts, or the schools to guide and form the right policies. The first Congress was filled with Christians and pastors. Now we have left all that to the atheists and the secularists because we are too busy reading books about personal issues and sharing our feelings to get involved in the world around us. We are careful to give God 10% of our income, but then we give the government 50% of it and don't get involved in how it spends it. We start Christian schools to give our kids a good education, where the rest of the kids can just go to the public schools and learn about atheism, naturalism, secularism, tolerance, homosexuality, and how every culture and every religion are all equal, equally irrelevant, but mostly Christianity. And you wonder why it's so hard to witness to people. Our public schools used to teach the Bible. They probably didn't teach you that in school or even in church. Like I said, we don't know where we've been and how we got here, so we certainly don't know where to go from here. So what are we supposed to do about all this? The first thing is to start talking about it. And of course, this includes the P word, politics. I describe it like this. Religion is your relationship with God and how you view the world. Politics is everything else. Christians have left the running of the world to the atheists, the secularists, and to all the people who hate everything they stand for. But why? Because Congress passes the law that says tax-exempt organizations can't do politics? Christians were the most political people and organizations in the country for 200 years, but we let one senator tag an amendment to an unrelated bill that essentially shut the church up, because now it was illegal for them to get too involved in politics. Time to say this is wrong and we won't be silent anymore. When you start talking about it, you will find that you aren't the only one thinking these things. Maybe then you will begin to cry out to God for some leaders who will show you what to do next. Without a leader, Christians are nothing more than sheep without a shepherd. With the right leaders, the church can become like a mighty army. But we don't sing armed Christian soldiers anymore. The church is afraid. Afraid to take a stand, afraid of being criticized, afraid to challenge the thinking of the day. It's time to wake up. Now, for me right now, I'm going to go back to bed. Good night.